Good, happy Saturday morning, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. Roads flooded as powerful nor'easter slams into New Hampshire. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9.
A lot of benefits of North Country, the jobs, the tax base, the infrastructure, the upgrade to the Coas Loop is, people just do not understand how big this is.
Gene McIntyre's live in Hampton, where the second high tide is moving in. Gene, earlier during our WMUR newscast at 11, we saw that officers and law enforcement were kind of guiding some folks out of some high-rise areas as far as the water on the road. Are there any folks driving around you right now, as far as you can see?
Well, we've actually seen quite a few people get in their cars and come out at night to take a look at the high tide. Here's a live picture. This is the intersection of High Street and Ocean Boulevard, a pretty heavily traveled area, and they actually have some street flooding here. They've had to direct a lot of cars out of this area. In fact, we have some video we're going to show you that we took just a few minutes ago, the DOT on the scene, trying to clear those storm drains as the water came over the seawall and is flooding into the street, trying to clean out rocks and leaves and all that debris that clogs up the roads. But yes, emergency crews are urging people, please stay home while they deal with high tide number 2, because then they will be dealing with high tide number 3 tomorrow, which hits just after noon. So hopefully people will heed the warning and stay safe as this nor'easter continues on. Back to you, Mike.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Over 384K without power as gusty winds continue. Next tide approaches. Let's take a listen to the video from WCVB Boston. Okay, sorry about that. We do not want that video, sorry. Thousands of people across Massachusetts were waking up without power early Saturday as a massive nor'easter continued to churn off the coast of southern New England, creating catastrophically dangerous seas and waves pounding the coastline of the Commonwealth. At least a dozen communities across southern Massachusetts reported nearly every home without power, and public officials warned it could be days until utility crews could address the damage created by the destructive storm. As of early Saturday, over 450,000 customers were without power, according to the statistics provided by the Massachusetts Emergency Management Office. The long-duration nor'easter pounded the coast with hurricane-force winds and sideways rain and snow, flooding streets, grounding flights, stopping trains, and leaving at least 5 people dead from falling trees or branches. In Boston Harbor, the Friday morning high tide crested around 14.67 inches, about 6 inches short of the record set during the storm on January 4th. A second high tide Friday night did not produce the record-setting flooding that was feared. Widespread streets flooding came in on the back of a 3-foot storm surge late Friday morning and was predicted to return to parts of the region for a third high tide early Saturday afternoon and possibly again Saturday night and Sunday. Even before Friday's night high tide, the storm had brought much of the eastern Massachusetts to a halt. The Friday morning storm high tide swept flood waters into areas that hadn't been underwater for decades. Flood waters in Quincy submerged cars and police rescued people trapped in their vehicles. High waves battered nearby Scituate, making roads impassable and turning parking lots into small ponds. Close to 100 people in Quincy were rescued, most of them from High's Neck, Grimtown, and the area around Post Island Road, where front-end loaders and boats were brought in to bring people out of flood homes and cars. Around 12:15 p.m. Friday, a New Bedford police captain and Dartmouth firefighter saved a man whose car was sinking in Clark's Cove off Rodney French Boulevard. Like the January 4th storm, this one is a bomb cycle, meaning that the pressure dropped at least 24 mile bars in 24 hours. The storm killed at least 5 people, including a 77-year-old woman struck by a branch outside her home near Baltimore. Fallen trees also killed a man and 6-year-old boy in a different part of Virginia, an 11-year-old boy in New York State, and a man in Newport, Rhode Island. Mechanic working on car finds body in truck at dealership. Let's take a listen to the video from WMTW News 8 Maine.
What, these both support the immune system?
Too many choices? Well, along with digestive health, Florastor provides an extra layer of immune support.
Really?
Unlike many other probiotics, Florastor stimulates the production of IgA.
IgA?
Oh, IgA is a protein that promotes health and defense against infection.
All right. I'll try it.
Woo! See you later, ladies. Be biotic with Florastor.
Megan, that entire car was actually towed here to the State Police Crime Lab, police hoping it contains some clues as to where this body came from. Police were first called to Varney Chevrolet around 3:30 Friday afternoon after a mechanic discovered a body inside the trunk of this Chevy Malibu.
It had been located at the Walmart in Palmyra and it had been locked. It had been towed in so that the folks here at the Chevrolet dealership could get the key.
Pittsfield police securing the scene before investigators arrived. State police later identifying the body as that of a young woman.
At this point, we do not have an identification or cause of death. We're in the very initial stages of this.
Tonight, officials calling it simply a death under investigation. An autopsy will be performed by the state medical examiner.
Until we hear from the medical examiner's office that gives us some input from their identification process and their autopsy, we will not know until that point as to what type of death we're dealing with.
The state police spokesman says they will also be following up on any missing persons reports. He says that more information will be released once a positive identification has been made and family has been notified. Live in Augusta tonight, Erin Dixon, WMTW News 8.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Jared Kushner entanglements increasingly concern President Trump, sources. Let's take a listen to the video from ABC News.
Oh, good, you're awake.
Finally.
You're still here.
Come on, Denise, we're Voya.
We stay with you too and through retirement.
With solutions to help provide income throughout. I get that voice with me through retirement. I'm just surprised it means in my kitchen.
Oh,
So that means no breakfast?
I said there might be
I
breakfast.
was really looking forward to breakfast.
But we can...
Boya, helping you to
And through.
retirement.
The White House tonight, and new questions swirling about Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, after the New York Times first reported on Kushner's meetings inside the White House with banks and investors, and then hundreds of millions of dollars in loans to help Kushner's family business. And tonight, what happened after those meetings and after all of that money, bringing even new scrutiny. Here's Chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl tonight.
The president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is facing mounting questions over whether he used his West Wing position to help bail out his family's real estate empire. The New York Times has reported Kushner had several White House meetings with an executive of Apollo Global Management, one of the world's largest private equity firms, even discussing a possible White House job. Several months later, Apollo approved a $184 million loan to the Kushner family business. And today, ABC News has learned that soon after that loan, the Securities and Exchange Commission closed an investigation into Apollo. There's no evidence of a quid pro quo, but there are serious questions about that timeline. Jared Kushner's lawyer says he has taken no part of any business, loans, or projects for his family business since joining the White House. And from Kushner Companies, we do not update Jared on what's going on in our business, nor does he ask. The White House is standing by him.
Jared's still a valued member of the administration, and he's going to continue to focus on the work that he's been doing.
At the beginning of the Trump presidency, Kushner's portfolio seemed all-encompassing.
Every day, I come to work with enthusiasm and excitement for what can be.
But Kushner has been stripped of his top-secret national security clearance, and the Washington Post reports several countries believed he could be manipulated because of his inexperience and financial debts. Publicly, the president defends his son-in-law.
Jared's done an outstanding job.
But sources tell ABC News the president is now privately raising questions with top advisors about his son-in-law's White House role and potential ties to his family business. Multiple Trump advisors say they have heard the president question whether it is time for Kushner and first daughter Ivanka Trump to move on from the White House.
So let's get to John Karl. He's live inside the White House tonight, the briefing room there. And John, Jared Kushner has also clashed at times with the chief of staff there, John Kelly.
Well, there's been tension from the start as Chief of Staff Kelly has curtailed Kushner's once open access to the Oval Office, also curtailed his role here at the White House. One symbolic measure of that is at morning staff meetings. I'm told that the Chief of Staff routinely calls on all of the president's senior advisors for brief statements, and he calls on Kushner, I'm told, almost always last.
A sign in the room. And John, on the bigger question here on security clearances that you've been reporting on, because we know that Kushner was one of many working with temporary security clearance. That's been taken away from him and others. You were with the Chief of Staff, John Kelly, today. He was asked when he learned of all of this.
Well, he said about a month after he took office as Chief of Staff in September, he became aware of just how many people in the White House staff were on interim security clearances. And what he said is, quote, "It was more people than I was comfortable with." That's when he started looking into putting an end to it.
All right, John Karl in the briefing room tonight. John, thank you.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. And I'll see you back here very soon for a news report. Goodbye, everyone.